Warning, this podcast may contain bad language and content that some listeners may find offensive.
I thought you were going to lead on with something there.
Nope, absolutely nothing. Do we even know what topic we're doing this week?
Yes, I got the notes up.
Excellent.
It's half the notes we didn't use last week.
Selena, do we know what you're doing this week?
Yeah, no. I'm just going with the notes that we didn't really use last week. God, I can't even speak. Great for a podcast, right?
We can do a silent podcast.
Very accessible.
Welcome to Seesaw Podcast
with T, Cleves, and Selena.
Each week, offering up a blind perspective on life.
Hello and welcome back to Seesaw Podcast. The dynamic trio is here once again. We're not milking last week's episode. We're just milking last week's notes this time. But before we get into that, I would like to say hello and how are you to firstly, Selena.
I'm good. How are you? I heard somebody had a birthday.
I did, but we don't have to talk about that.
Go on.
In my head, I went, who had a birthday? Was it Ted? Took me like a second to realise. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yes, it was me. Thank you very much. I am slowly slipping towards the mortality point.
Well, depressing. What did you get for your birthday?
Oh, what didn't I get?
An optimistic outlook on life?
I've always had that. I also got some jewellery from my wife, some clothes from my wife, money.
What jewellery? Was it Pajazzle? Liqueurs?
No. Liquors.
Oh, okay. What else did you get?
Money.
What else did you get?
Are you angling for something here?
Maybe.
You got me liqueurs.
No. What else did you get? What did you get from one of our friends?
What I got from one of our friends is a huge inconvenience, and we'll leave it at that.
So, do tell more.
Yeah, I want to know what you got.
No, it's not going on the podcast.
What?
It's already been spread to work now, and I've got to deal with it there.
I think we should put it out there.
I'm absolutely not. So, Cleese, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Excellent.
Nothing to add to that.
Gosh, you guys are full of like sharing about your lives and stuff.
Well, I tried to lead T into what he got for his best birthday present, and he's just having none of it.
Well, put it this way, it would be a really good prize for the listeners for anything that we do, and you'll get a mystery box.
You're going to give away your birthday present?
That's not giving it away. I am utilising it for comedic effect.
This makes no sense to me because I have no idea what this is.
And nor will you.
Fine.
Okay. Well, before we get into the topic of the week.
There was 26 copies of Shark Tale.
What?
You know.
What?
See, now there's going to be follow-up questions.
I'm a little bit, why? And okay.
They were all individually wrapped as well.
Is that one of your favourite films?
This is all-time fave.
Apparently, according to people, it is my all-time favourite film.
It's a good film. Not going to lie.
See, there's nothing I can say here that won't just, I am more torment from this stupid joke that's been going on for years now. And hopefully it's hit the zenith because I do not want to go on with this anymore.
You've got a copy in like pretty much every format now as well.
I do have
a VHS copy.
Yes, I do have a VHS copy.
I just really love that film.
Let's move swiftly on, shall we, without any more context or explanation. So, shall we do a little quick blind news? I will go first because it was my birthday, and this is from the Manchester Evening News. A woman mows down a blind man, leaving him for dead while speeding home from the chippy.
What?
God, damn it! Why do your
always
involve someone being maimed in some way?
Because it's the first thing I found that wasn't about like blind first dates or Love is Blind. That's the thing. That one.
Right. Selena, your go?
Well, my quick blind news is more that the BBC has started doing quick blind news. So
what?
yeah, well, 2 days in a row, I turned on my TV in the morning. I do watch BBC News every morning whilst I eat my breakfast. First day, we're at Bristol train station. They've got a new like soundscape equivalent of how to get around Bristol train station for the blind. It tells you when, what's on your left, what's on your right. Can you smell the pasties? And then the next day, I turned on
Genuinely
the
thought you were going to say,
news.
can you smell the piss? Anyway, go on.
The next day, they had smart glasses. I don't know if it was Orcam or something similar, but blind guy walking around, smart glasses. You can tell, describe what's in front of me. It's like 2 days in a row, quick blind news on BBC. And other quick blind news, I've got a new iPhone and it's causing me all sorts of, well, I don't know if it's news, but I've always used voiceover and Daniel, and now Daniel doesn't speak properly, and I'm trying to pick a voice that's decent, and it's stressing me out, to be honest. I'm on Jamie Premium at the minute, and I might go and try Oliver because they're not working out well.
It sounds like a shit rendition of Mambo Number 5. Well, that's the news. Fantastic. That was genuinely interesting, Selena, and I will also get on the Seesaw lawyers to make sure we get some money out of the BBC for that, because that is unacceptable that they would do that.
Do they tout it as quick blind news?
No.
Good.
Oh, yeah, they better not. They better not. Anyone else who rips us off, I'm coming for them. With all the mites that $9.99 will afford me.
See what Christina's rates are.
Yeah, that's very true, actually. So, the topic of the week.
Topic of the week.
So, last time we spoke about not disclosing your disability, which I think we did a very good job of. This time around, this was something we didn't actually get to on the show, but looking into culture, celebrity culture, and that sort of thing, when it comes down to being a prominent disabled figure and whether they have responsibility to disclose disability if they have one. So if we're going to start off, throwing just straight away the question out there, if a prominent public figure has a disability, should they be disclosing it to become an advocate for their respective community? What do you think?
I think it depends. If they might have no choice about disclosing it because, like Lost Voice guy, he's not going to get away with saying, I don't have a disability. Whereas, there's a lot of hidden disabilities out there. I guess it's their personal choice if they want to or don't want to.
Yeah, but is that enough now? If you're in the spotlight, do you have a responsibility?
Exactly. I was going to say, would I feel miffed if I found out that 5 years down the line, someone was actually visually impaired? Like, I didn't know, for example, Richard Osman's visually impaired. He's got nystagmus. And he doesn't advocate for visually impaired people, especially that I'm aware of. Should he? Okay, there's an example.
Yeah, well, like you say, it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Like, it's up to them, isn't it? It's a personal choice. But considering that we just said how it's good to see some prominent exposure to the disabled community in popular culture, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Just having more advocates. But yeah, not necessarily like, the cliche that celebrities only endorse charities and meaningful causes when it affects them directly or one of their family. And would it be nice to just have someone be proactive about a community? I don't know. I don't know how much Rosie Jones does, for example, for cerebral palsy. I'm not really clued up on that. Or other like big celebrities who are also disabled. Like, do they have a responsibility to do that? I'm not sure. It's a bit of a tricky one.
Society these days will tell you that you have a responsibility. It's not enough now to just be a bystander. You have to take a stand. I'm not sure I really agree with that personally. Also, it kind of, I think in some cases, it can detract from what it is you're there to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Like Tom Daly, I know he's not disabled. Oh god, I could come out completely wrong. I'm not saying gay people are disabled, but it's a kind of a similar kind of different thing. Being gay is not having a disability. But he's a big advocate of, you know, gay rights and stuff with the World Cup going on, that he's, you know, he thinks that the footballers should be wearing the One Love armbands. So should he be concentrating on jumping into a pool of water, or should he be concentrating on gay rights? It's obviously something he feels he's passionate about. I guess so. Yeah, back to
He's only one goal. He can do what he wants now. Now he can do rights.
Would people be upset with him if he didn't advocate for, you know, the LGBTQ plus etc.?
I mean, some people would be. I think some people would be, but that, like you say, Cleves, I think that's just the nature of things. I think there'd be a good population of people who wouldn't really be bothered, and others who would really take offence with him not being an advocate for them. So it's really tricky. I don't know where I stand on it, personally. I think there is a little bit of a responsibility, if you have got the spotlight on you, to bring attention to things in a way that can help people, as opposed to just drawing attention to yourself. Like, and I think especially in comedy, that's a bit of a, there's always like the cliche of a disabled person will always do disabled jokes. Like a gay comedian will always do gay jokes. Not always the case, but it is used in sort of an exploitative way, which of course we discussed on previous podcasts, that's okay. Or, well, we were split on the decision, but some would deem that okay. But if you're one of those individuals, should you also, if a comedian is exploiting their disability for their comedy, should they also be an advocate?
Yes, I feel like more so then. I feel like, yeah, possibly you've got more responsibility then. Whereas if you're not using your disability, then fair enough.
Piers, what do you think? Because you were very sort of torn on this when we discussed sort of comedy around disability a few episodes ago.
I just think if I was a comedian, if you take Rosie Jones, for example, she'd probably want to be known more for comedy than disability, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a cerebral palsy, in a way, kind of adds to the delivery of her jokes.
Yeah.
And it also means that she's got that life experience to draw on, which is funny. And she kind of makes other people feel comfortable in laughing about that. And in a way, she doesn't necessarily have to go out there and stand up for the rights and preach about it, because it's in a comedy. She's still drawing attention to people with disability. So that might be enough in a lot of cases. She's still painting a reputation of disabled people, that they can still be funny and have a laugh. And Chris McCaw's on again as another comedian on the circuit that's doing it. So maybe that's enough. That's kind of using their disability within their job, though. Whereas I suppose you've got other jobs, like a politician or someone like that, where being blind has really nothing necessarily to do with the job explicitly. It's just they're blind and a politician, for example.
Yeah, you can still be controversial and upset a lot of people being a blind politician.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between that comedy, I guess.
Yeah. So here's the follow-on from that. Does it actually matter if they are an advocate? So is it more just sort of like a flavour of the month? Flavour of the month. I'm hungry. Flavour of the month, sort of flash in the pan. Like, does it really matter? Especially when you're talking about content creators like TikTok, Instagram, stuff like that. They might be advocating for their disability, but outside of that was good, that was interesting, does it have a long-standing effect? Like, are they actually making a big difference, those who are advocating? Because if they're not, does it really matter if someone puts themselves out there with sort of a disability or neurodiversity?
People do it, and people do get famous for kind of being an advocate.
true, but is it making long-standing change? I mean, if you look at the fact that disability is still a very underrepresented group,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of issues still going around where there's been some meaningful movement within LGBT plus communities, within BME communities, not enough still. Like, we still want more positive movement there, but disability sort of stagnated, very slow. It's not really moving.
I do feel like we've lagged behind our LGBTQ plus and BAME counterparts with regards to advocating. Like, there doesn't seem, well, I think we're a smaller number of people possibly in the disability category, and smaller number in ability, so to speak, compared to other minority groups. So I guess, yeah, if you have got a celebrity, I'm probably contradicting myself, that's all part of the seesaw, going one side to the other. But
Nice plug.
I'm contradicting myself because, at first I was saying, it doesn't matter. But maybe because there aren't as many of us out there, and if you have got someone in the limelight, come on, give us a hand and help us out a bit. But at the same time, I totally get it if people don't want to. You don't want to be defined by your disability. I don't want to be defined by my disability, even though I'm on a podcast talking about my disability.
You're aware of the hypocrisy.
Yeah. You don't want it to be your life, do you? I mean, some people do make it their life. Personally, I don't want it to be my life, and I don't think you guys do either. So I guess we can relate to others who don't want that.
No, that's true. And going back to what you said, Cleves, about Rosie Jones, and this does tie in. You say that with Rosie's comedy, she is putting a spotlight on cerebral palsy and sort of normalising it, and she wants her comedy to speak for what it is. Do you think? I know this is a difficult question because you haven't got CP, but do you think Rosie Jones has actually made a positive impact as far as progressing opinions on CP? Do you think general member of the public, number one, has a different perspective just because they've seen Rosie Jones live?
I think so. Like, if you're a normie that walked down the street and you met someone with cerebral palsy and you've seen Rosie Jones on TV and it's a sort of normal thing now, I think you'd be less bothered by someone by cerebral palsy. The fact that you would be bothered about it in the first place is by the by, but because it's around you more and more, it's less different. It's more just, oh, okay, it's just something that's just something that people have. So what?
What about the expectation of greatness? Because that's the other side of it. Do they expect more from other individuals with that condition because they've seen someone be so successful?
I don't think it's any different from an able-bodied person becoming successful. Not everyone can be president.
No, that's true. That's true.
I think a lot of disabled people, I'd say, complain a bit. Well, the Paralympics is a big thing, and that's when you get to see the most disabled people on TV at any one time. And disabled people that aren't sporty and aren't Paralympians, they get a bit narked sometimes, that when people meet them, they think, oh, are you a Paralympian? Do you do sport? It's that they think that they seem to think the public think that all disabled people are Paralympians.
Paralympians or sponges, depending on what newspaper you read.
I'd rather someone think that I could go up and be a Paralympian than I couldn't do anything. So at least people are thinking about it in a positive way.
That's true. Although I will say that not all disabled people will see that as a positive. But that's just, they're all just a bunch of miserable Garys who don't like anything. See, I'll say that a lot of them are miserable. And if you listen to it and you're not miserable, I didn't mean you.
Oh, you're being nice to the listeners for once. Good.
I'm never nice. I'm never nice. So here's a hypothetical. And I think I already know the answer to it, but I think it's an interesting one. Is it okay to out someone in the public, like who is sort of like known to the public on any level, who you may know has a disability? Is it okay to do that, like if it would have a benefit to the community? Or is that a complete no-go area?
I mean, their disability would have to be kind of hidden in the first place, right?
Yeah. You're not going to out someone in a wheelchair for being in a wheelchair, are you?
No.
Yeah, they could be going around like in a golf cart all the time, just be like golf cart Jones or something like that. I don't know. That's
Happy with that, are you?
no, I'm not. It was awful. The question still remains: is it okay to out someone?
Does it? Oh, it might matter to that person. I was going to say, does it really
Yeah.
matter?
Of course, it matters. It's like outing someone who's, in the closet. Again, I seem to be obsessed with LGBTQ plus. I just want to say there's letters loads of times. You wouldn't do that, would you? You wouldn't out somebody for that. So why would you out someone who has a disability?
But as we've established, and here's the thing, we've already established that someone who's in the public eye with a disability can be a huge help to society and move things cultural forward. Whereas the same can't necessarily be said. Well,
can they all be a huge help? There must be idiotic disabled people out there giving us a bad name. They're not all great.
No.
Yeah, T.
No, that's true. but as Cleve said, normalising disability and changing perceptions of people in a passive way is a positive thing. So if you had someone who is, I don't know, Tom Hardy, for example, very renowned actor, if someone were to out him as having a disability, then would that not potentially normalise it a little bit more and help that community, give a bit of positive exposure to it?
I think there'd be a lot of disabled people that jump on that, like, hey, he's one of us.
Yeah. Be a lot of positivity potentially. I mean, he'd be understandably angry.
It's tough. I think as well, you've got like, I can't remember the guy's name. There's a few rugby players, isn't there, that have motor neuron disease now, and they've acquired their disability. And obviously, they were famous for not having a disability, and now they have got a disability. They are doing a lot of work to raise awareness of MND and doing good with it. That's commendable, because that they've fallen from grace, if you like, and it would be very easy just to go and live your life behind closed doors and not let people know what you've become. I admire that, to be fair.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Again, it's putting that positive spin on things. It's using the reputation to make some positive change, and they've done some really good things. It's hard to say because I don't know what every disabled person in the spotlight is doing, but I think by that admission, maybe I should be looking harder, or maybe they're not making enough noise, which goes back to the point I had before. Does it really make that much of a difference?
Why would they want to hide it? Do they think it will affect their career in some way? Is there that much of a negative light on disability that it matters so much that people would know if they had a disability? Are we still at that point in society now where people with disabilities in the spotlight are passed over for things?
That's a good point, though. Like, even in personal life, we talked about it in the last podcast, I don't always disclose my disability at work. One, just because it's a bit of a faff to explain it every time, and two, because I can get by without needing to.
Yeah, again, really tricky question, and I don't feel like we're giving many answers to these questions. But I didn't expect us to. I thought it was an interesting thing to talk about. No, you are right. Well, it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? If it is just a faff, and you don't want to have those conversations all the time. And if someone hides it to protect their career, I suppose context also matters as well. And you don't have to necessarily be, say, a prominent like celebrity or something like that, or sports person. Like, what if you were a doctor and you've been the best doctor in your town for years and years and years, decades, and then you come down with a disability that doesn't necessarily affect you as, say, a GP? Would you disclose that to your patients? Would some of them switch if they found out that you had, say, Parkinson's disease? Something that might not necessarily deal with how they're treating you.
I don't know. I wouldn't want an injection from them.
Yeah, but it's usually by a nurse, isn't it?
Not the ones I've had recently.
But you made me completely. I did have a point. You completely throw me off then.
Would you want them? Would you want them rectally examining you with Parkinson's?
No, but I guess if you disclose your disability, is it more the fear that then people are going to pry and ask you about it all the time? And how much can you see? It's one of those, isn't it?
Are you filling out my prescription correctly?
Yeah, that
sort of thing. Right.
What questions do you leave yourself open to?
Yeah. Is transparency not important, especially in a job like that? So people know what they're getting, even if you're practicing as that medical professional suffers for it. Do you not have an obligation to tell them?
I would say not really. I've got a friend. He's a nurse, works in sexual health. He's got Crohn's disease, so he's got a colostomy bag. He doesn't need to tell his patients he's got that. He can get on with his job completely fine. It's 99% of people that meet him don't know that he's got a disability.
I guess it probably depends on your profession as well, doesn't it? Whether you should disclose it in a way. We're not just necessarily talking about people now in the spotlight as a celebrity, but if you think the disability will affect your job, which then affects other people, then maybe you have a right, an obligation to tell them.
Yeah, like an Uber driver who's gone blind.
Yeah,
I mean, you're kind of required to tell people at that point. Mm-hmm. No, you're right. And again, we're not going to solve this issue. I don't think we can. Yeah. So, Selena, who do you want to out?
Nobody.
Good
answer.
That's a good answer.
They probably got dirt on me in return, so I won't risk it.
No, never. You're a Commonwealth competitor and Team GB and all that. You're a national treasure. I read your Twitter profile.
Yeah, because I said I'm a national treasure. I do need to change my Twitter bio. It's one of those things you leave for ages.
What? Delete the words national treasure.
Everyone, go and follow Selena on Twitter, and you might get to see the national treasure bit before she changes it. She's still working out her phone. She doesn't know what voice to pick yet, so you have time.
God, I'm not even changed my name on Twitter. I'm still my maiden name.
Yeah, but that's what celebrities do, right? You never change your name. How else are people going to know who you are?
Don't know. Wait till I have Cheryl Cole.
True, but she changed the celebrity name to a celebrity name.
She just became Cheryl in the end, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think, she came as whoever she married second time, and then she just became Cheryl.
Like Ronaldo, who also married Jo Cole, and then decided to change his name afterwards.
I don't think any of that's true.
Nope. Again, zero research. Unsubstantiated rumours and lies is what I do. So, closing thoughts on this topic.
One thing I would just like to point out before we go, and I didn't realise the hypocrisy at the time, we spent an episode or two talking about how that blind person on that video cuts through the cheesecake line to get to the front. And then we basically said, one of the reasons you would disclose your disability is to cut to the front of the line.
Yes,
like
I realised
in airports
that
and stuff. And I was just like, well, fuck.
I will also say I didn't say that.
Oh, here we go.
You didn't say that. You're
Shame
going to wait in the back of the line.
Right.
Shame on you.
The real question is, how confident are you?
I'm very confident that I wouldn't have said that because I would never have done it.
You did do it at Cleves' birthday. You said that on the podcast. You went Chessington and you jumped the queue.
Not all the queues.
Oh, don't try and twist it now. You jumped the queue. Some of the queue. You jumped a queue.
Well, I don't remember that, and there's no evidence to prove that. It's not on TikTok, so
it's on the podcast.
It's public domain.
But as we've established, T is full of shit.
Yep.
Right. Well, any housekeeping we want to do before we wrap up?
Not really.
Excellent. Selena, any housekeeping before we wrap up?
Nope. Anyone got any good recommendations for voiceover voices? Give me a shout.
Yes, there you go. Voiceover voices on iPhone. Let Selena know by going to her Twitter, following her, and checking out her profile, which is Chef's Kiss. Ah, beautiful.
I'd recommend Esteban.
Yeah, his Twitter is so much better. Oh, you meant for the voice? I thought you were recommending his Twitter.
He must have a real voice name. That's just his pet name that you've given him.
Yeah, it's Esteban. Excellent. Okay, next week we will not be doing this topic, but until then, have a jolly one, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Seesaw Podcast.
You can find us on Twitter at Seesaw Pod, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, and YouTube at Seesaw Podcast. You can also email us at seesawpodcast@gmail.com. Like, rate, review, subscribe, and then you can also find us on TikTok, but get us on all the other places. This podcast was recorded in front of a blind audience.